You ever heard an opening for a series and it's such a banger that you immediately have to watch the whole show? It happened to me a few times with shows like Fire Force, The World God Only Knows, Tokyo Ghoul, Black Clover, and Guilty Crown, just for a few standouts. However, it has never been the case that such a phenomenal opening was followed by a series which can only be described as torture unfit for mankind. That said, I watched this series with a friend, and it began as a meme, but let me tell you honestly, after watching all 52 episodes, it also ended as a meme, and we loved how terrible it was. So today, I'm going to take a moment to walk you through our journey binge-watching all 52 episodes of Spider Riders. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Spider Riders aired on Teletoon in Canada between 2006 and 2007, and was based on a novel series released between 2004 and 2007. The story follows Hunter Steele, which, as for the trend of the early 90s and 2000s, was an 11-year-old boy who left home without any parental supervision in search of the legendary inner world which his grandfather wrote about in his journal. In this search, he finds a tomb, and a manacle, which is very different from Ben 10's Omnitrix, binds to his arm, before a spider spooks him and causes him to fall down a hole which leads all the way to the center of the earth and the world of Arachna. Something they very rarely ever bring up again outside of calling Hunter an Earthen, which, sounds like a slur, right? I'd say every 15 episodes they'll mention it once where it actually matters. Anyways, here he befriends a 10-foot-long battle spider named Shadow and joins a group of warriors called the Spider Riders. As the name would suggest, these guys all ride spiders into battle. And with the use of their manacles, they can transform, gaining improved weapons and armor. That said, not just anyone can become a Spider Rider. As the goddess of this world, the Oracle, has to choose you and grant you a manacle. Which I guess leads us to the main conflict of the show. Humanity is trying to fend off the infected, basically bug people, which allow for amazing puns such as, "let's kick some bug," which they use so often. The infected apparently devoured all of the greenery on their half of the inner world and are trying to take over the human half because it isn't fair that they ate everything and have nothing. That's it. That's their whole argument, their whole point. Which, there's a lot to unpack there. Anyways, knockoff Palutena grants favor to humanity, and thus the Spider Riders came into existence. So let's talk about a few things with the show. The soundtrack, the acting, the characters, and the story. Now, as I said, the opening was phenomenal. It is so hype, so energetic, and it just is a great track. On to the rest of the track list, though, and that's it. Yep, believe it or not, this seems to be the only song they ever use. Yes, that's an exaggeration, there is one or two other thematic background songs, but this is basically the bread and butter for the whole series. You have a happy moment, play the theme song. Sad moment, theme song. Literally, just two people staring at each other, theme song. The only real exception to using the theme song to express some kind of emotion or tension is that with the same sort of chaotic randomness that they use in the theme song, they also use that horror movie thriller sound effect. You know, this one.
You're awake.
And there are peaceful and happy moments, and they just fucking throw in this sound effect. It's absolutely mind-boggling fuckery, and it makes you question the intention of every single scene and bit of dialogue in the show. And I gotta say, if I was watching the show by myself and was looking for something quality, I would have hated it. But instead, as I was watching this with a friend, these became two of the biggest memes of the show, quickly going from a source of confusion to absolute gutbusters that would burst out laughing every time they happened. And they happened a lot. The next big meme, point, was the only thing that was more common than the soundtrack, which leads us to our second topic, the acting. While it definitely does improve as the series continues, especially in the second season, the voice acting and pacing is something that can only be described as magical. And for their first trick, watch as they turn these 5 words into 3 distinct sentences.
Did we miss something here? Is that new armor?
Truly amazing. This is all throughout the show. Long, awkward pauses, characters showing not just the wrong emotion, but the opposite emotion of what their voice needs to be. And even when they get it right, the characters often sound like they're taking themselves so seriously in this very less than serious show. One of my favorite examples of the emotions being wrong is, I think, in the very first episode. Hunter is meeting Corona, the main female Spider Rider, And there was a scene where she almost shot him with an arrow. So naturally he's a bit scared of her and says, "Hey, you're the one who almost shot me." And she just giggles and goes, "Yep."
I know you. You almost shot me in the forest.
I had to stop the bug. Sorry, but I've never seen a spider rider like you before.
And then there's this long, awkward pause, and why did that happen? I don't know. Who did this? I don't understand why that was left like that. There must have been some kind of director, right? In combination with the rest of the audio issues of the show, it just becomes one big fever dream, and it's something that never makes you stop laughing or going back 20 seconds to make sure you heard the right thing, because that can't be right, can it? But either way, let's get on to the cast. There are effectively 7 Spider Riders to talk about, along with 5 Invectids. Starting off with our protagonist, a boy named Hunter Steele, who came from Earth to the land of Arachna. He is headstrong, always rushes in without thinking, and is a little too into the idea of being a hero sometimes. This kind of also leads to another issue in the show. Rather than demonstrating character traits, they often just tell us, this person always does this, even if we don't see them doing it. For example, people will constantly talk about how Hunter loves food and has an unending appetite, but maybe he talks about food twice in the entire 52 episode run, and I'm pretty sure those are close to the end of the series. His partner and battle spider is named Shadow, and if you think that his name is edgy because of Shadow the Hedgehog, well, don't worry, you're right. He basically has all the same personality traits as Shadow, except they tend to be more wholly good. Despite constantly agreeing with Hunter and working together near perfectly, it is a common theme in the show that they'll say that they don't get along, which, again, has very little actual demonstration behind it, it's just them saying they don't get along. Next up, we have Corona, who shall henceforth be called Brick Wall because A, I'm trying to monetize this video, and B, that fits her personality pretty perfectly. She's caring, kind, and can also be super selfish or petty, which could lead to a pretty good balance. Although she almost did let Hunter die once because he tried to talk to her when she was sad. No joke, that was the point of the episode. She even has a discussion with herself about how she should just let him die. It's real strange. Later in the series, they also try and force a relationship between her and Hunter from something that just didn't exist early on. And it's real awkward, and they talk about it in a way like, we've built this up so much, but there's no evidence or no moments before this that really lead to it. Out of all the voice work in the series, Brick Walls is consistently the most awkward, and it went a long way into me not liking her. Her partner is Venus, a spider whose personality is just as flat as her rider, just kind of a we should do good things kind of character. Rounding off the main trio is Igneous, a supposedly talented knight who is a bit of a cocky bastard and can look down on people if he thinks they aren't doing their duty. He is genuinely my least favorite character, and it really didn't help when they just randomly added the trait that he would become a womanizer, 40 episodes in, and I don't know where it came from. 40 episodes in, the episode just started and he's trying to fuck a queen. And then it just never stops. I don't understand. Anyways, his partner is Flame, a spider who doesn't talk, and that's their whole thing, which honestly, both me and my friend loved. They only really focus on it one time, but the way people would talk to him and expect him to respond and he just stares blankly back at them was hilarious. And yes, a character who doesn't talk easily made it into my top 5, which says a lot about the show. The 4th Spider Rider is Magma. He is enthralled by legends and duty, but at the end of the day, Magma go oonga boonga and hit things. His partner is Brutus, a spider with no discernible personality outside of trying to find his missing sister. All of these Spider Riders report to the Prince of Arachna, Lumen. He's an idealistic fuckboy who loves to sleep and is extremely lazy. And that's kinda it. That said, he does idealize peace and is willing to give up huge sacrifices to get peace. Not always in a beneficial way. His spider, despite being a white spider, is named Ebony, and I can't remember him doing anything in the entire series. Lumen's sister is Princess Sparkle, a bundle of happiness and joy, and because she's a child, her voice acting is actually pretty fitting, so it works out pretty well. But at the end of the day, Sparkle is just a very fun character, surrounded by people taking themselves too seriously, and that's what works with her. Her partner's name is Hotarla, and again, the whole point of this character is just to be cute. And that brings us to our final Spider Rider and the best girl of the series, Akune. Akune is one of the Oracle's maidens, and she's been captured and brainwashed by the Invectids. She believes in helping all living things, and in her eyes, the Invectids are the beings who are suffering the most right now. Her spider's name is Portia, and doesn't really have a personality to herself. Speaking of the Invectids, we have their ruler, the Great Mantid, who literally does nothing for the entire series, until like the last 3 episodes. His royal guard is the Big Four and consists of Grasshop, B-Rain, Buggies, and Stags. Grasshop is just a comic relief character who has a genuine character arc and quickly hopped from being one of my least favorite characters to easily the best in the series. He is so painfully incompetent and stupid, but he means well and, much like Sparkle, just acts really well to balance out the show. B-Rain is the worst. Like, not as the most evil or the worst person, just kind of sucks as a character, and I never really had any interest in her at all. That said, Buggies, the next member, is the effective leader of the Big Four, and as such acts as a de facto rival for Hunter Steel. He's kind of douchey, but in a way he's at least making a fun villain. Also, he's a 100% copy of Myotismon. That's it. Finally, we have Stags, an honor-bound soldier who loves nothing more than to fight and be challenged. Basically like an evil Goku. He even encourages his opponents to power up to fight him. While the rest of the Invectids fight in hordes, Stags tends to go in alone and is often more of a threat despite that. Visually, Spider Riders is fine for the time. The animation and illustration are really never anything astounding, but it's at least passable in terms of early 2000s Teletoon content. The standout for me though in this show are the transformation sequences. When I say that sometimes 6 minutes of a 20-minute episode is spent transforming, I am not exaggerating. And that's before some of the characters got a second transformation. In fact, I might be underselling how much of the show these scenes really take up, especially in Season 1. Spider Riders as a whole is an absolute train wreck. From a pointless story being egged on by an antagonist who might as well have never been present, to acting and sound design that will leave you questioning your sanity. But that said, I had an absolute blast watching it. This is definitely a show I wouldn't recommend you watch on your own, but if you and some of your friends want some mindless entertainment, it's top tier. I could say it's on the level of watching something like The Room, a show which almost feels intentionally bad, but for the best viewing, may I present you with the Spider Riders drinking game. I should mention that I don't actually recommend this, as you will most likely die, but for those interested, take a shot for any of the following. The theme music plays for no reason. Thriller sound effect. Strange pause in speaking. Strange emotion when speaking. Someone says never give up. There's a transformation sequence. Someone says Hunter likes food. And finally, finish your drink if someone says the Great Mantid or Arachna Power. I think that covers everything for my viewing of Spider Riders. It is a hell of a show in so many ways. If you enjoyed this video or if you remember watching Spider Riders yourself, let me know in the comments down below, or leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content. With that being said, a big thank you as always to our patrons, with our Dai Yokai, Brunette Thrasher, Jacob Wiley, Ikerochu, and Iffy Babes, our Yokai, Lucifina Akuma and Jamie Heck, and our Hanyo, Anthony Hogan, Kasim Salim, Love the Kiwi, Michael Greco, Randy Moseyman, Savage Camel, and Simon Electric. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, Arachna Power.